I'm Misty Hedrick, and we're here to discuss Destroyer of the Gods, Early Christian Distinctiveness in the Roman World. And Hurtado's book is an excellent comprehensive look at the world of the earliest Christians and how their religion developed a dramatically different community within Rome between the 3 centuries of its onset and its acceptance as the state religion of Rome. So, I'm just going to summarize the content and then talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses in chapter 1. And Destroyer of the Gods, Hurtado really challenges the postmodern sort of Western idea that all religions are basically the same. And he actually goes into ways that Christianity was different than the religions that came before it. He spends a lot of time talking about religion and what the word means. And I think that's one of the kind of weaknesses of that chapter where he talks about religion extensively, because he kind of repeats himself a lot. And, but that's really, the book is so well written, and that's really the only thing I found redundant in the book. But religion in that context was different because it involved, first of all, many gods. And in today's context, he talks about how we've developed cultural amnesia because we've forgotten how truly distinctive Christianity was at the outset. Beginning with the death and resurrection of Jesus, what Hurtado does is sort of chart the rise of Christianity from its humble beginnings to, in this small group of fervent Jewish followers. And Hurtado's words makes it transethnic and translocal. So where previously you were sort of born into your religion, this is a look at how this particular religion that grew up, called Christianity, was more of a transethnic. It went from, of course, it started with the Jews, but from the time of Paul, he took the gospel to the Gentiles. So the Jews essentially started the religion, since Jesus was Jewish, and then took it to everyone around the world, which is originally the idea of the Bible anyway, right? We're supposed to, as believers, the Jews were supposed to mirror image God to the world and show the world who God is and what he's like. And so they kind of failed to do that. So then Jesus came, and he was able to perfectly image God to the world and show the world what God was like. And then his followers were to take that message and create more followers so that more people would come into the religion. So basically, what Hurtado notes is that the religion is transethnic as far as it doesn't depend on your birthright. So your religion is not part of your birthright. So you're not necessarily born Christian in these early centuries. You're born in whatever religion you're born in, depending on the area that you come from. And most of the gods were local, except for the main, like Zeus or Jupiter, Hera, Juno, those different gods and goddesses. And so what Hurtado notes is that Christianity becomes aggressive in its transethnicity and translocality. So what it does is take this small group of followers and expand it. And I love in chapter 1 how he talks about all the ways, the different people, starting with Paul, and how he saw Christianity prior to his becoming an apostle, and then as he saw it as a threat to Judaism. So Paul was looking at it as a foreign religion, and or as a threat to his religion. But then once he's converted, he takes this new religion and goes to the masses of Gentiles, and then Hurtado turns to pagan criticism here in chapter 1, and he starts talking about Tacitus and Pliny and Galen and different authors and how they looked at the religion. And he talks about how people thought it was antisocial. They thought that Christians were atheists, that they didn't believe in God because they only would worship their one God. And it talked about how they were basically, in the words of the writer of Acts, turning the world upside down. They were messing up life as everyone knew it by taking this foreign religion, this small community of believers, and aggressively spreading their message and aggressively converting people. And he talks about how this is so foreign to what everybody thought religion was in the Gentile community. So in the Roman Empire, everybody was actually pretty open to worshiping new gods, but they wanted to make sure that you were taking note of all the gods so that no god got offended. And so I think it's interesting how Hurtado points this out and just really shows what it was like in the eyes of the Romans and the Greeks and those in Asia Minor and Turkey, and even down in Egypt, and just what it was like to see this new religion come on the scene and for it to start pulling people away from what they'd always known. And we don't think about it that way because we are products of Christianity, but they were products of pantheism. And if you look at all the things that Hurtado talks about from these different authors, he talks about how the temples were almost deserted and that the celebrations of the traditional rites of the gods were not adhered to. And basically, Hurtado is giving us a glimpse of what these people were experiencing. And they were worried about these people that were converting to Christianity because they weren't honoring the regular gods. And this was not only a religious idea, but it was political at the time. And it really frustrated people that people were turning away from worshiping many gods and turning to this one guy, Jesus, and following him instead. So I find that looking at the writings of these authors are particularly interesting, and they talk about the Christians being antisocial, but then they also note, like Galen notes, their courage in the face of death, their self-restraint in matters of sex, food, and drink, their keen pursuit of justice, even when they were being persecuted. And so I think it's important. This book is important because it helps us kind of see with ancient eyes a little bit and take into account what was going on at the time. So I really find that the strengths of chapter 1, I don't see a lot of weakness in it. The only weakness that I would point out of it in chapter 1 is that he doesn't take into account much of the actual New Testament. And I understand he's trying to pull sources from other places and use those sources. I get that. And that's a good thing to do. Another book I would recommend about this is called The Rise of Christianity by Rodney Stark, who is an atheist writer, but the book is really good. And it kind of also talks about the rise of Christianity and how it started from this small group of believers and then just through their evangelism went translocal, transethnic, took on the world. Thank you very much.